Reasons to leave that man. Just because, in case you were looking for reasons to leave, and anybody who's listening to this is probably going to think, oh my gosh, here we go. And if you think that, then this podcast ain't for you. I'm so sorry. This podcast, like I said, is for disobedient women who date men. And by disobedient, I mean women who are done playing by the rules of patriarchy and are prepared to set their own rules and watch their own lives flourish for them instead. So, reason number one to leave that man. He's in competition with you. He thinks he can compete with you, whether that's him feeling weird about giving you compliments or him feeling like he needs to be the better looking person in the relationship, or maybe you're both competing in your careers. He needs to be the star of the relationship here, and you should be his little sidekick groupie bunny because that makes him feel good. The competition that he's in with you, you perceive it and you feel it in such a way that you almost feel this instinct to make yourself smaller for him so that it feels easier for him to believe that he's the one that's winning here. And what I mean by that is, it's like when you're playing with a small child on PlayStation and you as an adult, maybe you've played the game before or you just have a better understanding of how to play this particular game, but you can see that that child is struggling a bit. And because you're not bad mind, you better let that child win. You let the child win just to have peace and to see that child smile. That is what it feels like when you're dating a man who is in competition with you, and to keep the peace and to save face and to just like maintain this relationship for other people's public viewing of you two, you just, yeah, you shrink and you let him have it, and you're okay with him not congratulating you, which is the next reason to leave that man. He doesn't like congratulating you. He don't like complimenting you. And when he does congratulate you or compliment you, you feel this feeling like, it just feels like he didn't want to say it. And I'm sure you felt that feeling before somewhere, whether it's with a man or with a parent or a jealous friend. You've achieved something, or it's your moment, it's your birthday, it's some sort of moment that's about you. And that person, like, it's almost like them saying, oh, well done, or wow, you look nice, or happy birthday. Like, it feels like they didn't want to say it. And it's such a weird feeling. And it makes you feel like you want to overthink it. You know, you find yourself, your mind just constantly goes back to that moment where you're like, that felt weird. It felt weird that this person didn't compliment me. Or it felt weird that the way this person congratulated me almost felt like they didn't want to say it, but I don't want to come across as though I'm doing too much. So maybe I'm just going to park that observation and pretend it never happened. But the feeling never leaves you. It's just there, lingering. And when you find yourself revisiting it, you start to tell yourself to stop, and you start to almost demonize yourself and make yourself believe that you're a bad person. Another reason to leave that man. And this one, it's like, sometimes when I say leave that man, you don't even have to be dating him. It could be that you're considering giving him more of your attention. Maybe it could be that you need to block this man, like it's enough. No more access. But another reason to leave that man, he's that guy, off the back of the last thing about not wanting to congratulate you, he's that guy who will watch all your stories day in, day out. He'll be up there amongst the first 50 people to view it within 20 minutes or 10 minutes. And he never, ever, ever compliments you. Not an emoji, not a heart, no interaction. He's just looking at you. He's just always looking at you. And you know this guy's attracted to you because you've picked up on that energy when you hang out with him in person. But it's just weird. Like, you feel this eerie sort of like, I know I look good. Why are you holding back on telling me I look good? That's weird. Do I look good, Mr. Armstrong? Do I look good, Mr. Armstrong? Say yes. The fuck? Because the reason why I find that so weird when guys do that is like, okay, you don't want me to know that you know that I look good, but you want to still look at me. Well, there's obviously something you're getting out of looking at me. And I think it's time that I restrict that because I don't like that. That's weird. That's weird because it makes me think of who would I consider a really attractive woman? Ruby Rose. Ruby Rose, she's Eritrean. She's a rapper. She has an amazing booty. And I feel like if I was a rapper, I would be Ruby Rose in terms of the things that I talk about. Like when you hear what she talks about, it's like, yeah, if I was a rapper, that's exactly how I'd be doing my thing. Good on you, sis. But Ruby Rose, as an example, yeah, she is like she's unavoidably attractive. I can't imagine being a guy and like me and Ruby Rose follow each other. Like Ruby Rose knows who I am, and she knows that I fancy her, as I should. I better fancy her. She knows that I fancy her, and I'm watching one of Ruby Rose's stories. She can see me watching all her stories, and I'm just like not acknowledging that she's sexy. If I was Ruby Rose, I'd be like, this guy's weird. Anyway, on to the next. Because if I'm Ruby Rose, I'm getting hella attention from guys left, right, and center. And I'm not insecure for you to do that thing where just because you're the one person that's not giving me attention, I'm going to suddenly want your attention. It's like, that don't work. Listen, I am pushing 30. That used to work when I was like in my early 20s where, you know, that reverse psychology thing guys do where it's like, well, if you want to get a girl, this is probably what Andrew Tate is teaching men. If you want to get a girl, then don't give her any attention at all. Only like drip feed her one compliment a year and watch how she's going to be on you. That's probably what these guys are doing because I'm sorry, that's weird. Like, you're in the presence of a 10 and you're holding back. Ooh, I don't like that. Another reason to leave that man. He's bringing his financial difficulties your way. You already know how I feel about taking in strays, attaching yourself to problems that got nothing to do with you, mounting yourself onto men and just taking on their problems with them because you want to have a man in your life. If a man is bringing financial difficulties my way, that's a big ick for me. It's a huge turn off. I can't fake being turned on. I don't like it. I would leave because it's one thing having financial difficulties and managing that situation on your own because that's what you've gotten yourself into. It's another thing now putting me in a position where I now feel like I have to come and help you and to share that burden. We're not married. You're not my man. And me taking on your problems for you I don't think that's gonna like make me your first choice because you don't know how many women these guys are using to help them out because they don't want to take action for their lives. They want you to help them. I'm not doing that. And the reason why a lot of women accept that is because you're scared of making men uncomfortable. You're scared that if a man develops financial problems and you walk away from him because those problems are now affecting you mentally and it's draining you, that makes you a bad person because you can't stay through thick and thin. Well, guess what? We're not married. We are not married. I did not sign or declare any vows involving for richer or poorer. And even if I was marrying a man, in the unlikely event that you see me marrying a man, well, for richer or poorer will not be one of the vows because I don't want to be poor and I know that I can find someone else who I can feel that security with, or I can just be by myself. I just wouldn't do it. Just not for me. So let alone I'm dating a guy and I'm suddenly helping him pay off his credit card debt. A credit card that he maxed out because he was spending money on another woman, but he didn't tell me. He's not going to tell you that, but that's probably what he's done. Like, I'm not going to be a part of that rubbish. Now, the next reason I'm about to say, you've already heard me say this 10 times over and I'm going to say it again. Another reason to leave that man is if he calls himself a male feminist. And how his feminism is exemplified in his actions is he's got you lot splitting bills. When he takes you out, you're going half. When he asks you to live with him, you're going half. And he says it's because feminism and equality and everything is half. Everything. Your life is no different than when it was when you were single. If anything, you're now spending more money than when you were single because you see this man as an investment. He don't see you as an investment though. He ain't spending no money on you, but you see him as an investment. So any money you're spending on him, you're just kind of charging it to love, and you don't even think anything of it. Me, I'm thinking many things of it if that's happening to me. Because what the hell? In a recession as well. And men who call themselves feminists be the most gaslighty men as well. They're the ones that you catch you in a weird debate where you're now stuttering. And it's like, yeah, the reason you're stuttering is because you've never had to think this far into explaining down to a nuclear point as to why you deserve better. That's why you're stuttering. Like, it's annoying. It's like someone making you explain why water tastes like water. Bro, I don't know. It just tastes that way, innit? Like, I'm not going to explain to you why I don't like suffering. And no amount of try and use classism to gaslight me, telling me that I'm classist for not wanting to date a man who I have to take care of financially. That's not classism. That's patriarchy for expecting women to once again give men more access to our bodies and our limited resources to sustain men. That's patriarchy. We have to still be sustaining men because we like them. I'm not doing that. And that is not classism. Woman having boundaries for who is allowed to be inside her body. How is that classism? My pussy is not a public resource. The general public is not entitled to my pussy. It's only classism if I'm withholding a resource like this pussy that the whole nation is entitled to. And I'm only saying, well, only this group of people are allowed to see this pussy. The rest of you, go away. You're going to have to starve and die without this pussy because this pussy brings life. Like, this is not that. So trying to use classism to gaslight women who don't want to sleep with broke men is not going to work. And it's usually people that call themselves male feminists that be doing that shit. And I hate that shit so much. Because a man who actually understands feminism and is prepared to put that into action using his position as a man who benefits from patriarchy, he gonna redistribute his wealth. Redistribute. Make my life easier. If you can't make me any safer, make my life easier, because that will still bring me a form of safety. Financial safety matters to me as a woman, and it's really important. And most women have gaslighted themselves into thinking that that's too much to ask for because it makes them come across as classist or gold digger or user or vapid or cold. And it's like, well, if you could just like pay attention to the tropes that men have carefully curated and selected to use to gaslight you into not asking for more. Look at the specificity, like really pay attention to what they've chosen to use, because they wouldn't say that you giving men access to your body who don't deserve such access makes you a bad person. They won't go and say that because they want you to do that. But suddenly you having your own rules and stipulations and prerequisites for who's allowed to touch you is where we draw the line. Like, okay. Y'all be safe. Not me though. Another reason to leave that man, he's become complacent. He's become complacent in earning your trust. He's become complacent in making you feel good. He's become complacent in being the guy that you were attracted to. That ain't gonna run around here. I don't like that. That's not gonna work. We're becoming complacent way too soon for that. I don't like the complacency, because complacency becomes negligence. And where there's negligence, yeah, you don't love me. This ain't gonna work. I'm not gonna be with a man that's neglecting me. That just doesn't turn me on. I don't like negligence, because negligence tells me that your attention is elsewhere. And you know what? If your attention is elsewhere, good for you. I am gonna follow suit and put my attention elsewhere. And when you're ready to be serious and when you're ready to commits to the standard that has been established in this relationship, then hopefully, if I still have time for you, we can revisit that conversation. But 9 times out of 10, I ain't got time to revisit, because once I've seen that, like, you're happy with becoming complacent because I've allowed you to be near me and I've allowed you to touch me in some way, it's really hard to come back from. Like, you have to make up for it. And usually most men don't make it to the stage of making up for it because they're goofy fucking wallards who who feel like they're too good to make shit up to you. Yeah, I don't like that, because the alternative is dating men who feel delighted at the idea of making you feel good. They're excited to date you. They're excited to impress you. They're excited to involve you in their own interests. They're so keen to welcome you into their world and make that as comfortable as possible for you. They are really committed to supporting you. They want to be that. They want to be that guy that you call when you need help, or they want to be that guy that you call when you need an extra eye to look at something, or they want to be that guy that you call when you want to have a good time. They just want to be that guy. And I love it when a guy wants to be that guy, because that guy, you can be my guy if you're that guy. This one is another one. Another reason to leave that man. He's always complaining. I don't like a complaining ass man, you know. That don't work for me. Like, you're complaining and then your situation is very much like, I'm becoming drained now from hearing you complain, and your situation doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. And I'm becoming turned off by that energy because it's now weighing me down. And I'm feeling myself now starting to feel bad for not wanting to come and interfere and save you. Because where do I start? Like, guy, maybe pussy shouldn't be a priority right now. Maybe dating shouldn't be a priority right now. Maybe you just need to take a breather and just go and get some grounding and reset your life. I don't think you're in a place where you can afford to give a woman the level of devotion, attention, and investment that she needs. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you don't deserve love. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that right now you're not that guy. And you're going to get left. Because once I feel turned off by a guy, like, that's usually called the ick. Once I feel turned off by a guy, I can't talk myself out of being in that place, because I always trust my observations, and my observations don't lead me wrong, especially when I use my guts to assess those observations. For example, if I can, again, this is the two things can be true at once. If I can acknowledge that this is a really lovely guy, like, he's a lovely guy. He ain't even a bad person. He's a lovely guy. He's just going through it. And his going through it is bringing tension and drama and baggage that I'm not sure this is what I signed up for, to what our relationship is now. Maybe we're going to have to just, like, readjust the parameters of this relationship. Like, you could still be my friend. That usually don't work, because men be feeling really salty when you leave them. They don't want to be friends. They still want to kind of, like, lick a tit or two while being friends with you. So it's kind of like you have to really be strong here and decide, well, if I'm going to detach from this guy, like, it's not even bad blood. It's just, guy, you're weighing me down. Okay? You're making me tired. And I don't like that, okay? And it can be that. It can just be that. And it's okay to leave it at that. But that's not going to work for me. Okay. Another reason to leave that man. He thinks being enthusiastically expressive about his desire for you makes him a simp. And if you've been listening to this podcast, we've already talked about this discussion of a man being a simp, and why I love simps, and why I think men need to reclaim the word simp and use it in a positive and self-owning way. And for those who don't know what a simp is a guy that's just like, he just loves women so much that he's just happy to do what he's told. Like, a simp and a sub can be interchangeable to a certain degree, but a simp doesn't necessarily have to be engaging in like any kind of like sexual or kinky play for him to still be a simp. Like, he's just happy to be here. Okay, and women love him because do you know who gives simp energy? If you've been watching Love Island, and you know the person called Will, this is the most recent Love Island and at this point it's February of 2023. So whatever season of Love Island where Will is on, because I don't know when you might be listening to this. You might be listening to this from the future. It might be the year 2030 and you're listening to this. But anyway, someone called Will, I would describe him as a simp because he's so comfortable in his masculinity that he's really expressive about how much he's fond of Jessie, who at this point he's partnered with. And he's also really, really loving and expressive towards his guy friends as well, which I quite like in men. I don't want to be someone that's like gonna assume someone's sexuality. Rather, my observations of Will, he gives me the vibes of a guy who's like, he's kind of like, what's the bit before you're bi, where you're like, is it bi curious or just bi? I feel like he just gives a really like I feel like men who are very comfortable in their masculinity usually tend to be either bi or they're just very, very, very comfortable in their fluidity within identifying as straight. I'm really drawn to that because it just makes you feel more comfortable around that guy. And yeah, men who like to call other men simps usually call other men simps as a derogatory phrase or a way to hopefully discourage other men from being really, really expressive about how much they like women. And I feel like this is so that the less that men are enthusiastic about their attraction to women, then the more women are going to latch onto a guy if he just shows her a little piece of attention. It's that whole thing of hoarding and monopolizing the thing that you know is in demand. So it's interesting how men be angry, hella angry at sex workers and women like myself who just know exactly what we like. Because remember, they like women. Men love women who know what they like until what they like is money. But they like women who know what they like, etc., until that woman likes something that man cannot fake. And when you're a woman who likes men who are simps, men are going to demonize what it is to be a simp so that those men who have nothing to offer you can still be in with a chance of having some pussy. And they'll create other sort of like stereotypes of masculinity that they can box themselves into so that you can have a reason to be attracted to them. For example, though, that fake alpha male gym dude bros who be calling women females and who and who like they lean into the most like basic insecure tropes of masculinity to try and impress you, like them being aggressive, in hopes that you will understand that as them being able to protect you. So it's like men use the idea of themselves being protectors in some way to lure you in, whether it's them flaunting their cash or flaunting their muscles. They want you to be of the impression that you're going to be safe and protected around them. So they advertise safety and comfort to you through wealth, through displays of wealth, or through displays of muscle. And then when you're attracted to that, then they try to make you feel bad about it, especially if what they used to attract you was money, which is why I think the nuance people miss out on when I say that I'm drawn to men with money is that they think I'm going to get bamboozled and I'm going to get got by a man who's just a scammer or a man who is fake with his wealth. It's like, No, I'm still suspicious of every man. It's just that men also can exist in a way where they are level headed and grounded and kind and respectful, and they also happen to have money, and that's just the icing on top. Like, the money is the icing, but the man himself having an amazing personality and being really caring and supportive and loving, all from his own desire, is the cake. Like, you're not just going to eat icing on its own, are you? Even though icing can be really sweet and that shit tastes good, especially buttercream, but you're not going to eat it on its own. But when it's eaten with cake, that shit slaps. So that's how I feel about, men who are just in full ownership of how much they desire women. I feel like you have to leave a man if he's trying to like make himself too cool to like women. It's like, brother, are you gay? Because if you are, that's okay. Like, yes, bestie, work. But don't try and make me feel like I'm doing too much when you deep down know that I'm not a woman that you can meet my needs. So what are we really doing here? And if you hate women having needs, then maybe you just hate women. Maybe you should explore other options. And that's okay. Another reason to leave that man is he's just not a guy you can count on. He's not that guy. He's not a guy who, if you were in some sort of like, you don't even have to be in danger. You could just be having a very meh day, and he just wants to take your day from a 7 to a 10. Like, he's not that guy. He's not that guy who, if you needed, like, yo, can you bust me something? I need help. He's not that guy. Or like, if you need emotional support, he's not that guy. He's gonna act like he didn't see your message. He's gonna be suddenly missing your calls. Like, he's not emotionally present for you, but he's sexually present. When you want to have sex, he's there. He can even teleport. But anything else you need him for, you're gonna get, oh, sorry, just seen this. And it's like 5 weeks later. Like, it just feels very much like he's conditionally attracted to you because what he wants from you is having sex with you. And that's not good enough. It's not gonna make you feel fulfilled, and you know that, and that's why you should leave, because you deserve to feel fulfilled. It's the very least that you could feel if you're dating a man, right? But a lot of men don't want you to ask for that, so that's a reason to leave him. Let's see, another reason to leave that man: when he raises his voice. Who are you raising your voice at? Who are you raising your voice at? Like, I know it ain't me you're raising. Is it me you're shouting at? I don't like that, because that raising of voice thing is like, he has a lack of patience for you and he's in a hurry to shut you up, and he feels okay with raising his voice at you. Because let me tell you what happens, yeah? It starts with raising a voice at you, and then what follows is name calling you a bitch, calling you a hoe, saying to you that's why your dad left, like really trying to inflict pain on you. And then what's after that? Hitting you. Hitting you is inevitable. It might come further down the line, but he's going to start hitting you, because what comes in between the name calling and the hitting is other forms of controlling you, including gaslighting, including seizing your phone or looking through your phone, including him like locking you in his house with him, or just doing really sinister shit to you to punish you. His intention is now to punish you. He's inflicting pain on you to punish you and to keep you in your place. That is abuse. And the abuse can sometimes start from him raising his voice at you. Do not have it. Do not have it. I believe in on the first offense that feels impactful enough for me to have that really upsetting tummy feeling. when I think about the situation and my tummy feels funny, that's a reason for me to be like, we need to put a pause on this, because this is not, we can't move forward until this has been resolved. And I don't care how small the incident was, because if it's big enough for my tummy to feel it, then it's big enough in it. And we ain't moving on until this is resolved. And if there is no resolve, then I'm leaving. And I don't care if the fireworks of this fucking romantic fling only lasted 2 weeks or 2 months. This is why my dating history with men has never been longer than like 3 or 4 months. Because, the argument could be, what do you know about dating men? You've never been in a 5-year relationship. Well, yeah, I've never kept myself changed to a man for 5 years when I should have left fucking 5 weeks in. Like, the length of a relationship doesn't prove it's a good relationship. Being married to a guy for 14 years isn't proof that whatever you did in the beginning worked. It's just proof that you chose to stay for 14 years. Like, I've had people saying to me, well, you're saying that you want XYZ for a first date. Well, let me tell you, on my first date with a man, we sat on his mattress that had no bed sheet on it, and the bed had one pillow, and we watched Netflix on his cracked 13-inch MacBook screen as our first date. And guess what? 15 years later, we are still married and happily in love. Well, good for you. If that worked for you and it still works for you, more power to you. Good for you. That will not work for me, because that's not a date. And how dare you, and I'm not your mates, to be asking me to come to your house to watch Netflix with you when I don't know you? Do I fucking know you? Why would I be doing that? Why would I be doing that? So yeah, that's the reason to leave. Yeah. It don't feel like there's anything much going on there. It just kind of feels like you're just accepting whatever this guy's got to offer. You can leave. You can leave. Just like you can unsubscribe from a Netflix subscription, you can also leave that man. You ain't married him. Hopefully not. And if you have married him, well, no matter how long, no matter how many years a divorce process can last for, it's better to start than to never at all. Because you deserve your happiness, even if you only get to live to see 5 years of it. Because that man has wrung you dry, has extracted every bit of moisture and life and vitality you can from your body. You'd better just salvage what you can for yourself. Because after all is said and done, and you get to the end of your life and you look back on what you gave your time to, I guess in the future there's going to be like an analytics breakdown of like what you spent your life doing. You'll be able to look at those statistics in the metaverse or some shit, and your analytics will show you that 80% of your life was spent with men. And then when you zoom in on what you were doing in that 80% chunk spent with men, 90% of that chunk was spent running after men and emotionally coddling them and being their second mum. And then the 10% was you actually, maybe for a fleeting moment, feeling loved and wanted and accepted. So when you get to the end of your life, yeah, do you want to be that person that's going to look back and be like, damn, I really gave my life away to men and they gave me nothing? Or do you want to look back and do you want to be like, damn, I gave my life to myself. I really lived, like, I love that I did all these things for myself, and look at all these men I met along the way. This person enhanced this here. This person brought fun here. This person really taught me about myself here. This person really helped me out with, like, men get to play an exciting part in your story, and you get to say that you chose your life. You don't have to say that you settled for it. And I want to be that person. And even now that I'm still really young, relatively, like I have younger cousins who I see as my younger sisters, and if they were to come across anything that I say on this podcast, like, it's important for them to hear what I'm talking about, because I would never advise my little sister to accept a walk from a man that she met on a dating app as a first date. I would never encourage my little sister to stay with a guy who is financially struggling and is bringing those struggles her way to enough of an extent for her to now start feeling that pressure and weight on her life. It's way too early in your life for that. Way too early. And there's never a good time to take on a man's problems. Even if you're 70 years old and you're still dating, there's never a good time to take on a man's problems. When there are men who will not bring their problems to your life, like, there's always going to be options outside of there. I will always use the breath and life in me to encourage my little sisters to demand more. As long as you're dating men, as long as you have interest in boys, you can, no matter what age you lot are, everybody is capable of doing what's relative to them to impress you and make you feel good and make you feel special, because you are special and you do deserve to be treated well. And I'm never going to support any kind of rhetoric or line of thinking that encourages you to put men's happiness and comfort and well-being before your own. That never pays off, and you're better than that. And nobody comes into this life and is just anointed by this celestial invisible being that just puts like a wand over your head and says, you are special and you're just going to get special treatment without asking for it, and it's just going to happen that way. It's like, no, in this life you have to play an active part in choosing what you accept. Like, that's your bit to be in control of. That's your free will. And with that free will, you owe it to yourself to really pick the best you can. And it's a belief system that you can choose to adopt whenever. If you decide that you're the baddest, if you decide that you deserve it because you said so, then that's it. You deserve it because you said so. That's it. You don't need no proof. You don't need no documents. You don't need no verification from somebody else to confirm that you deserve good things. You deserve good things because you said so. And when you start acting like you deserve good things will be more available to you. And you just have to continuously make yourself available to those good things, because you can be still attracting good things and only be choosing to give your attention to things that aren't meant for you. And that's something that you have to be conscious of. If you're of the age of dating and you're of the age of listening to this podcast, then you are of the age of making executive decisions that will disappoint some people, but in the end, you'll be glad you made those choices, because this is your only life. This is your only life, and you can't spend it catering to men, running after men, and hoping that that's going to bring you virtue. Because I can tell you now, I've met older women, much, 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 much older than me, older than my mother's age, who have told me that they regret it. They've got funny stories to tell, but they do regret not asking for more. I've had older women, like maybe women of like my mom's age, like women that I can call auntie or even great aunts, like email me saying, they email me asking, how do you know all this stuff? How did you get so wise? I had a woman say to me that she wishes she could go back and redo her 20s and 30s all over again with the knowledge of what I talk about. And it's always so fascinating to hear that, because I'm yet to get to that age. So I can't imagine what it's like to have spent the duration of my entire current lifespan of 28 years of being alive, to have spent that duration like dating men who aren't good for you. Like, imagine spending 28 years dating men who have all just been taking and taking and taking from you. Because for me, as someone that's 28 years old, I would say, what's the total amount of time that I've spent, like, in terms of just when men have taken from me and they've not brought any abundance my way? I want to say in total I've probably spent like 4, 5 years of that at most. And that is way too much for me, let alone spending 28 years. There are people that have been married for 20 years to the wrong man, let alone being alive for 20 years. So it's like, if you are listening to this podcast, you've got time. As long as you're alive, you have time. You have time. Regardless of where you're positioned in the age group spectrum, there are men of your age and there are men who are attracted to you. There are men who are going to try and move to you. And you have time and opportunity to still be able to decide for yourself. What do you want from men? And if you're someone that's much, much younger, maybe even younger than 28, and you date men, you really, really need to be asking yourself, what do I want from men? Why do I enjoy dating men? Why am I straight? Why do I feel the most comfortable and the most loved and the most appreciated when it comes from a guy? Like, these are not bad questions to ask yourself, because if you can figure out the why, then you can figure out how you want to maneuver dating men based on what you are aware you want to get out of it. Because when you don't really know what you want to get out of it, but you kind of want to feel validated, you kind of want to feel like you're part of something, you kind of want to have sex, like, you're not really approaching this as a serious person. Like, you need to be serious, because this is your life, and you can still be someone that makes room for banter and fun and spontaneity, and also be someone that is sure that what you're engaging in is informing the path you're on, it's an investment of your time that feels worth it. Because whether you're 18 or 48, your time is so worth it, and your time is so important, so much more important than you have been taught to think. And I think what we're all scared of here is that if we were to really, truly deep just how valuable our time and our love and our affection and attention is, we will become so angry about what we've tolerated. And that anger, like, there's no limits to where that anger can take you. So you just avoid it and you tell yourself to just be happy with what you've got. And that anger is a sign that you love yourself, because now you know you deserve better and you know that you were duped. That's how you end up. It's how you end up usually listening to this podcast, because you know that you deserve better. If you're listening to this, it's because you know you deserve better and you want to explore that conversation further. And there is something you're drawn to in hearing another woman reflect your experiences back to you. But what's different is that how she's handled the same experience you've had has brought out a different outcome, and there's a different tone of reflection to it. And I think that's what women deserve to have. Like, we deserve to be able to talk about these things without being made to feel like we're these like bad, evil, wicked women who are just negative vibes and all you do is complain about men. It's like, well, I'm living in a patriarchy which is constantly inconvenient, and men are benefiting from that all the time. So I think the least men can deal with is women complaining about the power that they manage to uphold every single day at our expense. I think that's a fair payoff. And you know what? Women aren't even angry enough anyway. And like I love to say, men should consider themselves lucky that women don't even want revenge. We literally just want romance.